Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, European Union launches Red Sea naval mission against Yemen's Houthis attacks. As Houthis attack 2 US ships in the Gulf of Aden, Houthis say British vessels attacked on Sunday are at risk of sinking. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ushers in a new era of development in Jammu and Kashmir. Focus on setting up Indian Institute of Management, All India Institute of Medical Sciences to Viksit Bharat plans. India's Asian Games medalist Anush creates history in equestrian, secures India's first Paris Olympics quota in dressage discipline. The European Union on Monday gave the go-ahead for a defensive mission in the Red Sea to safeguard civilian cargo ships from Houthi attacks. The decision was made in collaboration with India's existing anti-piracy efforts in the Indian Ocean. DD India's correspondent Alex Kadia reports for more from Brussels.
Well, as they so often have, Russia and the Middle East dominated discussions among the EU's 27 foreign ministers here in Brussels. Protecting civilian cargo ships in the Red Sea was very high on the agenda. Officials here announcing a new mission to try and achieve that, but stressed the mission is defensive and will focus on escorting ships through those areas targeted by Yemen's Houthi rebels and not striking Yemeni territory. The mission will be led by Greece, and Italy, France, Germany and others have said they'll be contributing ships. The mission will work alongside the US-led coalition in the Gulf of Aden and will coordinate with India's anti-piracy mission east of the Red Sea. EU officials have told me they discussed and coordinated their plans with their Indian counterparts. The question now, both for the EU's mission in the Red Sea and for new sanctions in Russia, will be about impact and whether or not the EU will be able to continue making a difference on the global stage. Alex Kadia in Brussels reporting for DD India.
EU's measures come in response to increased attacks by Yemen's Houthis disrupting global shipping. The recent attacks by Yemen's Houthi terrorists on Monday involved attacks on 2 US ships, Sea Champion and Navis Fortuna, in the Gulf of Aden. The group said the attacks had been carried out using naval missiles. Earlier on Monday, the group said they had attacked the British Rubima cargo vessel, putting it at risk of sinking and raising the stakes in their campaign to disrupt global shipping. The European Union is aiming to get its 13th package of sanctions against Russia over the line by the 2-year anniversary of the full-scale offensive in Ukraine. Now, the 27-nation European Union foreign ministers discussed the conflict in Brussels on Monday. 26 of the 27 member countries joined in support of the sanctions, and it would complement a £50 billion financial support package for Kyiv and a move to set aside profits from Russia's immobilized sovereign assets. Hungary, however, remained the sole naysayer, which said imposing more European Union sanctions on Kremlin makes no sense and only hurts the bloc's economy. The EU foreign ministers also reiterated their calls for ceasefire in the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, stressing on the unconditional release of hostages held by Hamas.
The 26 expressed its support to this statement and produce a new one, which is basically the same one that I issued during the weekend, but with an additional statement, additional paragraph, which is to require an immediate humanitarian pause that would lead to a sustainable ceasefire, to the unconditional release of hostages, and to the provision of humanitarian assistance.
Even as IDF troops continue operations against Hamas in Gaza, the Israeli military says it has recovered footage of hostage mother and children. The video footage released on Monday showed Israeli woman Bibas and her 2 small children being moved by terrorists in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The family was kidnapped on October 7th. They are among the 134 hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari vowed to keep fighting Hamas until all the hostages are released.
Seeing this young mother clutching her babies, surrounded by a group of armed terrorists, is horrifying and heart-wrenching. But it is also a call for action, that we must bring the hostages home, fast. Those who have the audacity to question our need to operate in Gaza, but don't have the decency, the basic decency and humanity, to demand that Hamas release our hostages first of all. They all should take a good look at this terrified mother, Shiri, clutching her babies.
Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Forces struck 2 weapon depots belonging to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The strikes came in response to a drone launched into Israel by Hezbollah. Continuing with providing aid to Ukraine in its fight against Russia, Canada will donate more than 800 drones to Ukraine as part of an additional aid package to the country. Canadian Defence Minister Bill Blair on Monday announced that Canada will donate more than 800 Sky Ranger R-70 multi-mission unmanned aerial systems to Ukraine. Now, this donation is part of a previously announced $500 million in military assistance for Ukraine, announced by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau during his visit to Kyiv in June last year. The government said these drones, valued at over $95 million, are important for surveillance and intelligence gathering and can be used to move supplies, including munitions. Canada is expected to deliver the Sky Ranger drones by early April.
Among my NATO partners, our discussions are that no one knows how to fight the Russians better than the Ukrainians because they've been doing it for 2 years. They have been ingenious. And so working very closely to them, I'm very pleased today to be standing next to this device and to advise you that Canada is investing over $95 million to provide Ukraine with more than 800 Sky Ranger R-70 drones.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that Russia is exploiting delays in aid to Ukraine, and the situation in the areas where Moscow's troops are concentrated is extremely difficult. Zelensky was speaking after visiting the front line in Kupiansk sector in the northeast, an area recaptured by Ukraine in 2022, but where Russian forces have been active in recent months. Zelensky has expressed confidence that the U.S. Congress will endorse a large aid package, including assistance to Ukraine, delayed by wrangling among lawmakers.
It is now an extremely difficult situation in several parts of the front line, exactly where Russian troops have concentrated maximum reserves. They are taking advantage of delays in aid to Ukraine, and this is a very sensitive matter. Artillery shortages, the need for frontline air defense, and for a longer range of our weapons. We need joint decisions, rational decisions, to get out of this situation. First of all, our decisions with the Poles and everyone in Europe who cares about the fate of Europe.
U.S. President Joe Biden said on Monday that he is willing to meet with House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson to discuss a funding bill for Ukraine's security needs. The Senate earlier this month passed a $95 billion aid package that includes funds for Ukraine, but Johnson signaled that he opposed the legislation before the Senate even passed it. Biden said Republicans are making a big mistake by opposing aid to Ukraine and walking away from NATO. Johnson has requested personal meetings with Biden several times in recent weeks before he took any action on the funding bill.
Making a big mistake not responding. Look, the way they're walking away from the threat of Russia, the way they're walking away from NATO, the way they're walking away from meeting our obligations is just shocking. I've been for a while. I've never seen anything like this.
Polish farmers could block all border crossings with Ukraine from today, a move that could stop the movement of crucial supplies to the conflict-stricken nation. Farmer unions warned last week that they are ready to escalate their agitation, which has been going on for weeks now. Our correspondent in Europe, Ishan Garg, tells us more.
Farmers from Poland are ratcheting up the pressure on their national governments and the European Union. They say cheap agricultural imports from Ukraine are hurting their livelihoods, which is why they are now blocking border checkpoints. Ukrainian officials say the flow of trucks has completely stopped in some areas. Close to 3,000 trucks are waiting at the borders, according to Ukraine's border agency. And reports say about 600 trucks are waiting on the other side to enter Poland. Poland and Ukraine share a 534-kilometer long border. Kiev argues that the blockade is not only hurting exports but also limiting its ability to bring back essential supplies in empty trucks, hurting its defenses as it continues to battle Russian aggression. Ukrainian and Polish officials have held several rounds of meetings. Polish authorities are working to assuage the concerns of the farmers who are demanding a complete halt of duty-free imports from Ukraine. Some are also concerned about EU-wide regulations which they say are adding to the cost of farming. Polish farmers had blocked routes earlier in January but suspended their protest after officials agreed to meet their initial demands. But the protest is expected to grow. Farmers from other European countries are planning to join in the next few days, and farmers' unions say the blockade will continue until March the 10th. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
Hundreds of Czech farmers drove their tractors into the capital, Prague, on Monday outside the Agriculture Ministry as a joint protest against high energy costs, stifling bureaucracy and the European Union's Green Deal. The government has said the organizers of Monday's demonstration have little to do with real farming. Farmers across Europe have taken to the streets this year, including in Poland, France, Germany, Spain and Italy, to fight low prices and high costs, cheap imports and EU climate change constraints. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Monday won the backing of her German centre-right party for a second term. At a meeting of the party leadership, Germany's opposition, Christian Democrats, have given their support to von der Leyen to be their candidate for the Commission President. With this, she is now in a strong position to clinch another 5 years running the European Union's executive body.
Heute, 5 Jahre später,
I am taking a very conscious and well-considered decision. I would like to run for a second term in office, and I'm very grateful to the CDU for nominating me as the top candidate of the EPP today.
Kandidatin für die EVP vorschlägt.
The first woman to hold the job, von der Leyen steered the EU through the COVID pandemic, the formal exit of Britain from the bloc, and the ruction following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The leaders of the European Union's 27 member countries will choose the Commission President after elections to the European Parliament in June later this year. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, tensions continue to rise across the sensitive Taiwan Strait as China increases patrolling following fisherman's death. Amid monthly process until Election Day, U.S. Presidential Committee files financial disclosures, shows candidates raising campaign funds as they ramp up calls for donations. Almost 1,000 people participated in the annual Copenhagen Light Festival, jogging or walking through the city wearing battery-powered LED light chains.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I am Preeti. Let's get to more international updates. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is also holding a series of meetings across Latin America. His tour will culminate with the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Our Latin American correspondent Mary Trini Mena has more details.
Sergei Lavrov arrived in Cuba on Monday, where he met President Miguel Díaz-Canel. Being ideologically close, the Caribbean nation has long been a strategic ally of Russia, with equally close political and economic relations. Mr. Lavrov will also make a brief stop in Venezuela, where a meeting with President Nicolás Maduro is set to take place. One of the topics of conversation in Caracas will be the visit the Venezuelan president is planning to Russia. Maduro's trip was scheduled for late 2023 and then suspended. Venezuela and Russia have developed strong commercial bonds, especially in the military, agriculture, and energy sectors. But the main focus of Mr. Lavrov's agenda is concentrated on a two-day visit to Brazil, where he will take part in the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Brazil is the current G20 president, having taken over the role from India at the end of last year. Brazil's president, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, has previously sparked controversy, saying that if Vladimir Putin attends the full G20 meeting later in the year, he will not be arrested, despite the International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant for the Russian president over the country's war in Ukraine. Mary Trini Mena in Caracas, reporting for DD India.
Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan will represent India at the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Rio de Janeiro. The minister will participate in two key sessions, including G20's role in dealing with ongoing international tensions and global governance reforms. Minister of State for External Affairs will also attend the India-Brazil-South Africa Foreign Ministers meeting on 22nd of February. On the sidelines, he will also hold bilateral meetings with partner countries from the global south. Brazil assumed the G20 presidency from India on 1st December last year, and the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting would be the first ministerial meeting under Brazilian presidency. The G20 Foreign Ministers have been meeting as a group since 2012, and the meeting in Rio would be its 10th meeting. India has contributed an additional $1 million to the IBSA fund, bolstering South-South cooperation. This is in reaffirmation of the principle development of the people, by the people and for the people. IBSA is a joint body of India, Brazil and South African Nation for Poverty and Hunger Elevation Fund. Each of the country contributes $1 million annually to IBSA fund in spirit of partnership and support for global South nations. With the additional fund, India's contribution to IBSA has now crossed $18 million since the fund was set up in 2004. IBSA fund supports the projects that are concrete expressions of solidarity. Also, IBSA is focused on food security, health intervention and safe drinking water. The contribution was presented to the Director of the UN Office of South-South Cooperation, and it underscores India's commitment to collaborative progress and shared prosperity. Tensions continue to rise across the sensitive Taiwan Strait as China increases patrolling following the deaths of the fishermen. China's Coast Guard triggered panic among Taiwanese people by boarding a Taiwanese tourist boat. Now, this is part of Beijing's plans to set up law enforcement activity around Taiwan-controlled islands of Kinmen. Also, this comes following the death of two Chinese nationals fleeing Taiwan's Coast Guard, having entered into waters too close to Kinmen. Head of Taiwan's Ocean Affairs Council has, however, said that it was common for Chinese and Taiwanese tourist boats to accidentally enter into other sides' waters. And in the report ahead, we now show you what transpired between the two warring nations.
A tragic incident on Valentine's Day has become the cause of fresh tensions between China and Taiwan. Taiwan has defended the action of its Coast Guard after two people on a Chinese speedboat, which got too close to a frontline Taiwanese island, died when their boat overturned while trying to flee a Coast Guard ship. The Coast Guard also released footage of its personnel recovering one of the remains following the incident, which happened after a Chinese speedboat with 4 passengers on board entered prohibited waters near Kenmen's Beiding Islet, home to a military garrison.
As the speedboat was sneaking, trying to evade inspection and even drifting, the speedboat capsized and the 4 people on board fell into the sea. Then a patrol boat immediately launched a search and rescue, successfully rescuing 4 mainland fishermen, 2 of whom survived and are currently undergoing questioning by the Coast Guard. The other 2 were rushed to the Kinmen Hospital for emergency treatment and were declared dead after first aid was unsuccessful.
But China is livid. Monday saw the Taiwanese Defense Ministry saying it detected 17 Chinese military aircraft flying near its territory. Taipei also said Chinese Coast Guard personnel briefly boarded a Taiwanese tourist boat near Taiwan-controlled islands on Monday. Earlier, labeling the death of the fisherman as wicked, Chinese Coast Guard said it's strengthening its law enforcement activities and carrying out regular patrol in the contested waters. China's Taiwan Affairs Office also said the deaths had caused strong indignation in China, but that there were no off-limits waters. The decision to increase patrols raises concern about heightened proximity between Chinese and Taiwanese Coast Guard boats, increasing the risk of miscalculation and conflict. Taiwan considers itself a sovereign state, but China claims it as its own, even threatening to take it by force at a time of its choosing, despite US assuring its security. China has ramped up efforts to challenge the long-standing status quo across the Taiwan Strait in recent weeks, with Beijing also altering a flight path near the median line of the Taiwan Strait.
Asia's biggest air show was kicked off in Singapore on Tuesday with participants from 50 countries. The biennial commercial and defense-focused Singapore Air Show will feature military aircraft from India, Singapore, Australia, Indonesia, South Korea and the US. Now, this edition will be the first in 6 years unaffected by pandemic restrictions. Participating in the event, the Indian contingent will include Sarang helicopter display team of the Indian Air Force. The Sarang team is performing a 4 helicopter display at the air show this year. DD India's correspondent Patrick Folk tells us more.
This is the first time since 2019, since before COVID, that the event is back to full scale. There are more than 1,000 exhibitors here from more than 50 different countries, so there's a lot of excitement. And this event is really about industry leaders and figures getting together to engage with one another and talk about issues within the global aviation industry. And one of the big focuses this year in particular is on sustainability, and there's going to be a lot of discussion on how the industry is going to reach net zero emissions. Remember, the global aviation industry has committed to do so by 2050. And you know, one of the things that is being featured here is the Airbus A350-1000, which uses sustainable aviation fuel, which is basically a mixture of cooking oil, tallow, and regular jet fuel. So we're going to be getting a closer look at that today. Also, as you say, there's going to be a lot of excitement about the aerobatic teams here, including India's Sarang helicopter aerobatics team that are going to be performing here tomorrow. It's a 71-man team, and it's one of 5 aerobatic teams that is going to be performing at Singapore. So we're going to be getting a good look at that as well tomorrow.
A monthly filing of U.S. Presidential Committee financial disclosures could put light on which candidates are raising the most campaign funds as they ramp up calls for donations. Today is the deadline to submit January's reports to the Federal Election Commission, a process repeated on the 20th of each month until Election Day in November. With more details, Benji Hire is in Washington.
This is a routine procedure. Committees that have received contributions or made expenditures of at least $100,000 during the 2024 presidential election cycle must file these monthly reports. That includes the main candidates, so President Joe Biden, former President Donald Trump, and his rival for the Republican Party's nomination, Nikki Haley, plus several independent or third-party outsiders, all vying for the Oval Office. Now, fundraising is one of the key components of political campaigns here, running into the tens of millions of dollars for each of those who managed to stay in the race. The latest Federal Election Commission figures show a total of nearly $400 million raised among all contenders so far, with Biden and Trump leading the pack. A few weeks ago, inboxes were inundated with emails asking for more donations. Take one here from Trump. Before we close the book for this month, his campaign writes, "I'm calling on every single pro-Trump patriot to chip in." Only Trump's previous financial disclosures to the FEC showed him in debt $200 million last year, and he'll need to pay for 4 expensive criminal trials during the race for the White House. This weekend, he faces off in South Carolina, the primary there, against Nikki Haley, the state's former governor and Trump's former ambassador to the United Nations. If she loses that, she'll likely be out of contention, potentially setting up a Trump-Biden rematch. Benji Hire in Washington, reporting for DD India.
International Atomic Energy Agency's chief said on Monday that he will pay a visit to Iran next month as the country fails to end their nuclear enrichment activity. The UN's nuclear watchdog has pressured Iran to not augment the uranium well beyond the needs for commercial nuclear use, as Iran was still enriching at an elevated rate of around 7 kgs of uranium per month to 60% purity. Enrichment to 60% brings uranium close to weapons grade and is not necessary for commercial use in nuclear power production. Grossi will visit Tehran for the first time in a year to end the drifting apart, though Iran denies seeking nuclear weapons. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world now. Up your screens, we will have more details. At least 2 buildings' roofs were completely engulfed in smoke and flames during a fire in Philadelphia's Francisville neighborhood. The fire began in a building on the 1600 block of Ridge Avenue and spread to nearby 4-storied structure. The Hong Kong University of Science and Technology has developed a blood test that can detect Alzheimer's disease 10 years before symptoms develop, with an accuracy rate of 96%. The test, led by neuroscientist Nancy IP, aims to provide early identification, diagnosis and treatment for the disease, targeting Chinese and European demographics. Almost 1,000 people participated in the annual Copenhagen Light Festival, a 7.7-kilometer run, jogging or walking through the city wearing battery-powered LED light chains. The festival, now in its 7th year, features illuminated bridges, buildings and light art. Participants enjoyed the beautiful weather and the magical atmosphere, while the event continues until February 25th. You're watching DD India News Hour. We are heading for a short break, but after the break, Greek Foreign Minister Georgios Gerapetritis arrives in India to participate in India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geostrategy, Raisina Dialogue, from 21st to 23rd February in the national capital. The 12th edition of Milan Exercise 2024 begins at Visakhapatnam. Naval ships of Russia, Australia, Seychelles, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Vietnam and the US to participate in the exercise.
India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. land of possibilities, teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India. A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the Global South with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. A quick relook at the top stories once again. European Union launches Red Sea naval mission against Yemen's Houthi attacks. Houthis attacked 2 US ships in the Gulf of Aden. Houthis say British vessels attacked on Sunday are at risk of sinking. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi ushers in a new era of development in Jammu and Kashmir. Focus on setting up of Indian Institutes of Management, All India Institute of Medical Sciences to Viksit Bharat plans. India's Asian Games medalist Anush creates history in equestrian, secures India's first Paris Olympics quota in dressage discipline. In a significant step towards all-round development of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate key development projects today. Prime Minister will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple development projects worth over 32,000 crore rupees aimed at strengthening the civic and urban infrastructure across Jammu and Kashmir. The projects relate to several sectors including health, education, rail, road, aviation, petroleum, civil infrastructure, among others. Also, Prime Minister will inaugurate the newly constructed wing of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, India's premier medical institute at Vijaypur at Samba in Jammu. The foundation stone of this was laid in 2019. Also during the program, Prime Minister will distribute appointment orders to about 1,500 new government recruits of Jammu and Kashmir. He will also interact with beneficiaries of various government schemes as part of the Viksit Bharat, Viksit Jammu program. India's President Draupadi Murmu is on a 5-day official visit to Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The President will visit Indira Port and Campbell Bay today. She will also visit Subhash Chandra Bose Island and witness light and sound show. On Monday, the President visited the cellular jail at Port Blair in the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar Islands and paid homage to those who were exiled and hanged as political prisoners in colonial India. The President attended a civic reception hosted in Arona that was followed by a cultural program. Addressing the gathering, President Murmu said that the island's blue economy has greatly contributed in India's economy.
इस द्वीप को की ब्लू इकोनॉमी का भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था के विकास में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान रहेगा। मुझे बताया गया है कि इस द्वीप समूह से पिछले एवं अन्य मेराइन प्रोडक्ट्स के निर्यात को बढ़ावा देने के लिए कई कार्य प्रगति पर है। इस द्वीप समूह के स्वच्छ पर्यावरण और इकोलॉजी का संरक्षण करना अत्यंत आवश्यक है। विकास कार्यों और पर्यावरण संरक्षण के बीच संतुलन रखते हुए हमें आगे बढ़ना होगा।
High-profile arrivals have started for the prestigious Raisina Dialogue 2024 in New Delhi, set to tackle pressing global issues under this year's theme, that is Chaturanga, Conflict, Contest, Cooperate, Create, featuring Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis as the chief guest. Let's take a closer look at it with our correspondent Meghna Dev's report.
Arrivals have started in New Delhi for India's premier conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics, the Raisina Dialogue 2024. The Raisina Dialogue is being held in New Delhi from 21st to 23rd February and will address challenging issues facing the global community. With the theme Chaturanga, Conflict, Contest, Cooperate, Create, the conference will delve into issues under diverse sub-thematic pillars like war and peace, tech regulations, invest, innovate, and more.
I'm here to speak about our calling for this century.
And this year, under India's leadership of the G20, we're putting sustainable development at the center of the agenda.
We have moved to a new mindset where solutions to climate challenge become the drivers of a new economic age.
India has emerged as a powerful leader and policy maker.
At the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, is also paying a state visit to India from 21st to 22nd February 2024 and will be the chief guest and keynote speaker at the 9th Raisina Dialogue. Every year, leaders in politics, business, media and civil society converge in New Delhi to discuss the state of the world and explore opportunities for cooperation on a wide range of contemporary matters.
When a few nations set the agenda and expected others to fall in line, are over.
Hamas and the people who support Hamas are fully responsible for this appalling act of terror.
The health crisis during the pandemic, who could you call? And more importantly, who would answer?
The dialogue is structured as a multi-stakeholder, cross-sectoral discussion involving heads of state, cabinet ministers and local government officials who are joined by thought leaders from private sector, media and academia. The conference is hosted by the Observer Research Foundation in partnership with the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. Meghna Dev reports for DG India.
Ahead of Greek Prime Minister, Foreign Minister of the Southeastern European country, Georgios Gerapetritis, arrived here in Delhi. He will also be participating in the Raisina Dialogue. India-Greece ties are based on shared cultural values, commitment to foster economic growth and collaboration in the fields of security and defense, shipping and maritime, and are marked by convergence on regional and global issues. The two countries have also been cooperating closely in various multilateral fora. India is hosting a 9-day mega naval exercise in Visakhapatnam, which got underway on Monday. More than 50 countries are taking part in the 12th edition of the Milan exercise, which is being held at India's Visakhapatnam. The 9-day naval event would be a platform for the participating navies to share ideas to enhance security on the high seas and ensure safety of maritime commerce for growth and prosperity for all. In addition to building bridges of friendship and strengthening of relationship, sea exercise would enhance interoperability, enable exchange of best practices, and will boost confidence to undertake missions together in the future to tackle common challenges. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India now. The chairman of the high-level committee on One Nation, One Election and former Indian President Ramnath Kovind held consultations with former Chief Justice of India, Justice Deepak Misra and Justice S.A. Bobde, who gave their considered opinion on the elections. The committee is exploring the options of conduction of simultaneous elections at centre and state level in India. Indian Army organized a program to celebrate Shiv Jayanti at Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's statue in Kupwara of India's Jammu and Kashmir. The soldiers paid their respect to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj amid snowfall and white ground all around in the vicinity, with temperatures with level of mercury under 0 degrees. New Delhi to hold the Indus-X Summit on 20th and 21st of February. The summit marks a significant milestone in the collaborative efforts between India and the US in defense innovation. It aims to be a pivotal event driving strategic technology partnerships and defense industrial cooperation between India and the US. Chief of the Royal New Zealand Navy, Rear Admiral David Proctor, lays a wreath at National War Memorial in Delhi. The New Zealand Navy Chief is on an official visit to India to participate in the ongoing exercise Milan 2024 in India's Andhra Pradesh. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted the people of Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh on Statehood Day today. Prime Minister posted on X, and I quote him, "Statehood Day wishes to the people of Mizoram. India is very proud of Mizoram's unique cultural tapestry, its rich beauty and the warm-hearted spirit of its people. The Mizo culture is very inspiring, embodying a blend of tradition and harmony, praying for the continuous progress, peace and prosperity of Mizoram." On Arunachal Pradesh Statehood Day, my best wishes to the people of the state. People of Arunachal Pradesh are making rich contribution to India's development. The culture of the state is also greatly admired, particularly the vibrant tribal tradition and the rich biodiversity. May Arunachal Pradesh keep prospering for years to come. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar attended the 37th convocation of Indira Gandhi National Open University in New Delhi. The Vice President presented gold medals to the students at the ceremony. Addressing the gathering, the Vice President said that convocation is much beyond a ceremony. Rather, it marks a milestone in students' life and it is an unforgettable moment. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Indian men's hockey team shines at the FIH Pro League, beats Spain 8-7 via penalty shootout to face Netherlands on Wednesday. The 4th edition of Khelo India University Games kickstart in Assam. The coveted games will witness 4,500 athletes from over 200 Indian universities compete for medals. And astronomers have discovered the brightest and most luminous object ever observed. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you updates from the world of business now. Asian stocks were restricted to tight ranges amidst muted start on Tuesday as investors await fresh mood lifters and catalysts after China's efforts to support its property markets failed to excite the investors. Also, the diminishing hopes of an early US rate cut also weighed on the sentiment. Asian stocks held to tight ranges on Tuesday as investors await fresh sense of direction from the Wall Street. Australian stocks fell, weighed down by BHP Group after the minor missed profit estimates, while Japan stocks advanced slightly. Even the Indian indices, Sensex and Nifty, slipped and traded in red in the early trading session. Sensex slipped over 100 points at the opening bells, while Nifty was below 22,100 amid lackluster sentiment in all the key sectors, including petro, auto, tech and infra. The Indian government targets to increase the Indian economy from the current $3.7 trillion to a $30 to $35 trillion economy by 2047. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said the government's ambition is to make India a fully developed nation by 2047, and all efforts are being made in this direction. The minister further highlighted that the current government has completed a turnaround of the macroeconomics of the country, with foreign currency reserves being 4th largest in the world.
This 25-year period is going to be the defining journey of India as we transition from a developing economy to a developed and prosperous economy. We are today a $3.7 trillion economy. Our ambition is that by 2047, this country should be reporting a US dollar $30 to $35 trillion GDP.
India's Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal, held discussions with United States Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources, Richard Verma, in New Delhi. The discussions were held to further strengthen India-US trade and investment ties, to explore new opportunities for greater collaboration and growth. The visit of US Deputy Secretary aimed at strengthening cooperation between the US and India. The US Secretary, Richard Verma, is on a 3-nation trip to India, Maldives and Sri Lanka from February 18 to 23rd. Australia said on Tuesday that it would add $7.25 billion over the next decade in defense. The additional funding will put emphasis on accelerated delivery of the Navy's future surface combatant fleet. The Navy will also expand its fleet of warships from 11 to 26 vessels, the largest since the end of the Second World War.
Today, the Albanese government is announcing an increase in the number of warships in the Royal Australian Navy to being the largest fleet since the end of the Second World War. And so a component of today's announcement is that we are increasing defence spending by an additional $11.1 billion over the decade, which includes $1.7 billion over the forward estimates, so that this plan is fully funded.
Let's get to updates from the world of sports now. Anush Agrawal obtained India's first quota in Equestrian for the Paris 2024 Olympics in dressage, the Equestrian Federation of India announced on Monday. Agrawal, who had previously won a historic individual bronze medal in dressage at the 2023 Asian Games, has obtained the quota for India based on his performance in 4 FEI events. In Hangzhou, Agrawal rode a throw during his medal-winning run. The quota belongs to the country, and Equestrian Federation of India will conduct a trial before sending the final name for the Paris 2024 Olympics. The quota obtained by Agrawal was the 40th for India at the Paris 2024 Olympics, to be held in July this year. The Indian men's hockey team beat Spain 8-7 via penalty shootout in the FIH Pro League match on Monday, as the experienced goalkeeper PR Srijesh produced the decisive save for his team. The penalty shootout too turned out to be a thrilling contest, as the two teams were locked 7 each before Lalit Kumar Upadhyay put India ahead. Indian custodian Srijesh then produced a decisive save, denying Spain captain Marc Miralles to earn the 8-7 win for the host. India will next face the Netherlands on Wednesday. The 4th edition of Khelo India University Games kicked off on Monday with a glittering opening ceremony in the northeastern state of Assam. A part of the Indian government's Khelo India initiative, the Khelo India University Games 2023 will witness around 4,500 athletes from 200 universities across 11 days.
The 4th edition of Khelo India University Games was declared open in the northeast city of Guwahati on Monday. Around 4,500 athletes from 200 universities will be participating in the games, which will take place in 7 sister states of Northeast and will end on February 29. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually addressed the opening ceremony through a video message. In his address, Prime Minister Modi applauded the efforts of various state governments, including the Assam government, for their contribution to promoting sports. He also highlighted the evolving ecosystem of opportunities for the youth.
खेलो इंडिया हो, टॉप्स हो या ऐसे अन्य अभियान हो, आज हमारी युवा पीढ़ी के लिए नई संभावनाओं का एक पूरा इकोसिस्टम तैयार हो रहा है। ट्रेनिंग से लेकर स्कॉलरशिप देने तक हमारे देश में खिलाड़ियों के लिए एक अनुकूल माहौल बन रहा है। इस वर्ष खेलों के लिए रिकॉर्ड 3,500 करोड़ रुपए का बजट दिया गया है। हमने देश के स्पोर्टिंग टैलेंट को साइंटिफिक अप्रोच के साथ नई शक्ति दी है। इसी का नतीजा है कि आज भारत हर प्रतियोगिता में पहले के मुकाबले ज्यादा मेडल जीत रहा है।
The grand opening ceremony was also attended by India's Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur alongside Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma and Assam Sports and Youth Welfare Minister Nandita Garlosa along with a host of other dignitaries. The opening ceremony witnessed thematic showcase highlighting the values of unity, diversity and spirit of sportsmanship. Speaking on the occasion, Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur said that these games are not just an opportunity to win medals, but a unique platform uniting athletes and communities alike in the spirit of sports and cultural exchange.
Khelo India University Games are more than just a battleground for medals. They are celebration of unity, sporting spirit and individual growth. Over the next 10 days, our athletes will compete for more than 822 medals.
A total of 16 sporting disciplines are held in Guwahati, with 4 sports being held in other northeastern states. The event is organized at 18 venues in 7 cities during the 11 days. The Khelo India University Games is a part of the Indian government's Khelo India initiative that was launched in 2016. The Khelo India mission focuses on promoting grassroots sports and identifying young talents from across the country. Sports Desk, DD India.
Sri Lanka defeated Afghanistan by 72 runs in the second T20 international on Monday in Dambulla to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. After recently making his T20 international comeback, Angelo Matthews was the star of the show for the Islanders after he contributed with both bat and the ball. Matthews and Hasaranga showcased outstanding all-round performances, supported by a solid half-century from Sadira Samaravikrama, as Sri Lanka continued its winless streak in the ongoing tour. The third T20 international is scheduled to be played in Dambulla on Wednesday. Sri Lankan spin sensation Wanendu Hasaranga became just the second Sri Lankan to take 100 T20 international wickets. The leg spinner, who is currently the captain of the T20 international side, becomes the 11th men's player overall and second Sri Lankan bowler after Lasith Malinga to win and to earn the milestone. Wanendu Hasaranga achieved the feat during the second T20 international against Afghanistan in Dambulla, while Malinga achieved the milestone in his 76th T20 international. Hasaranga did so in his 63rd. This makes him the second fastest to achieve 100 T20 international wickets after Rashid Khan, who achieved the same in 53 matches in 2021. Astronomers have discovered a bright quasar, the brightest and most luminous object ever observed, powered by supermassive black holes. The record-breaking black hole in this quasar is growing by the equivalent of 1 sun per day, making it the fastest growing black hole till date. Alright, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.